Hiya, my name's Charlie and welcome to my channel and welcome to my weekly reads. How are you guys? Have you had a good week? It's been quite the interesting week here because obviously just yesterday, I'm filming this on Thursday, we had the Women's Prize Shortlist announcement and yeah, that was quite interesting. But before I talk to you about that, I'm going to go in and talk to you first about all the books that I've read. So yeah, the first book that I finished was Maybe I Don't Belong Here by David Heir. This was one I downloaded on audiobook. I did have it on my Kindle, but I found a way of getting a free book, which I'll put all the details of all of that stuff in the description if it's still available. Yeah, so this is David Heir's, is kind of his like a memoir, and it's his experiences of dealing with psychosis. So David Heir, in case you don't know, I'll put a picture of him on screen. He is a famous actor. He's globally famous. He's most famous and most renowned for featuring in Homeland, which isn't a show that I've actually watched, but it was on telly for like for 10 years, I think. So yeah, this was a really interesting book, and I'm so pleased that I've got round to listening to it. So basically, it chronicles his sort of childhood, obviously all the way up to sort of present day. It's his identity, his racial identity, plus the effects that mental health has had on him throughout his life. He also talks a lot about, like I said, about racism. There's at the beginning of the book, he's discussing, I feel like I should go from the beginning to the forward. So when he was growing up, his father also experienced his own sort of battles with mental health, and so that is addressed as well. And also he talks about being a young boy and how David Heir has a love of football and him going to matches and experiencing racism there. So yeah, there's content warnings for all those things within these pages, obviously, so be aware of that going in. But yeah, it was just so interesting. And I think basically what had happened was that how it all started with this experience of basically what led him to write this book was he'd put this tweet out about I think it was like a mental health awareness day or something like that, and he just put a simple tweet out in his mind, just expressing that, you know, he had previously had experiences with psychosis, and the tweet basically went viral, and then it led to him, I think he then created this documentary which then led on to the book. I think that's the order of things. But yeah, it was just really interesting. It also talked about his acting career. There's just so many wonderful things. One of the things I wrote down the quote for, he said it was about so with his experiences with psychosis, he said it was about putting the broken pieces of his identity back together, which was just so interesting. He words it so gorgeously, and yeah, and the actual audiobook is narrated by David himself, which obviously added to it, I think. And at the end, there's like an interview with him and another famous historian. I can't remember his name, but I'll put his name across the screen. You guys will know him. Yeah. So yeah, it was just really interesting. This was a really strong read. I highly recommend it. So the next book that I finished was Turtles Under Ice by Julia Del Rosario. Julia is a Chamorro author. Also, she's half Chamorro, half Filipina. The Chamorro community are an indigenous community, and the reason I wanted to pick this book up, or found out about this book, was to read an indigenous author outside of the US. So this is what I've done. Turtles Under Ice is a novel told in verse, and in this book we follow two sisters, Rowena and Ariana, and they both of these young girls have young teenagers, and they've lost their mum at the beginning of the book. Lost as in she's passed away, sadly. This book is basically obviously following their grief and their experiences. So it takes it in turns, hearing from Rowena's perspective and Ariana's perspective. This was just really beautiful. I really love novel novels told in verse anyway, and I think it's a very accessible way for young readers especially to sort of connect with some books, and older as well. It's not for specifically for any ages either. But yeah, it was really, really beautifully done. A beautiful way of talking about grief. The writing was really good, and yeah, I thought it was quite powerful. So I don't want to go into too many details about this book because obviously it is quite short and it is told in verse. But it's also like talks about their sisterly dynamic, and I love books with sisters in, if you guys know me. So this was like a perfect read for me, very, very quick read, but a gorgeous one nonetheless. So that was one, and I do recommend it. Right, then we head to, I finished one of the books. I've got a pile of picture books now. So I've got the Stories from the Billabong by James France Marshall and Francis Firebrace. Francis Firebrace is another Indigenous author. This is an Indigenous illustrator, but he also is telling the tales as well. And the thing I loved about this book, so this is obviously, these are like sort of short myths sort of thing, short stories, sort of myths, telling children about like certain animals, how certain animals were created, etc. There's like a kangaroo, how the kangaroo got its pouch, and etc, etc. I don't know a lot about Australian wildlife, etc. And so some of this led me to going on to Googling things. Like there's a flower in here which was like really, was described really beautifully. Like the waratah, the mountain rose, and I'll put an image of this flower, the waratah flower, on screen. It's just gorgeous. I'd never heard of this flower before, obviously not coming from this area. And it's beautiful, it's stunning. I looked up the image, it's gorgeous. And just various other creatures. So yeah, and this fits another prompt for the Indigenous readathon for reading a book with pictures. So yeah, that's that one. And also is for the picture this readathon. I think this covered the prompt of yellow, I believe. Even though I have got another book which I also picked up, which is very, very yellow. So you could also have picked this for that. This one is one I picked up on Monday from the library again. This is called my very favourite book in the whole wide world, by Malcolm Mitchell, illustrated by Michael Robertson. I think, has this won awards? I don't know. Anyway, and it says that Malcolm Mitchell is a Super Bowl champion. There you go. Did you know this? You probably in the US, maybe you did know this. But this is such a gorgeous little book, and basically it's about a little boy who is searching for, his teacher sets the class like an assignment of trying to find your favourite book, basically, in the whole wide world. And so he's searching for a book, hit high and low and everywhere, and it's about how he finds the answer to his problem. And that's all I would say. It's a gorgeous little read, and it's a little bit longer, so I don't think it's for like super young children. I don't think they would necessarily, I think it may be 5 and above. I don't think you could do like little toddlers type of thing, because I don't think they'd necessarily, I mean, it does look like it would be, but I felt like it was a little bit long for very, very young children. But the pictures are super gorgeous. But yeah, so maybe they would like it. But yeah, I would think possibly maybe for 4 or 5 year olds, possibly, with good age. Obviously picture books can be for any age, as we've said before. I also read I'm a Bat by Morag Hood. I finished this. This is obviously, these are all gorgeous little picture books. The illustrations are just wonderful, and it was just gorgeous. And I also just today read the children at the library. I read The Steves by her, and The Steves is just hilarious, because The Steves is about two puffins who basically are arguing over who the best Steve is, and this is about a bat who has some food but he doesn't want to share it, and everyone slowly is starting to eat his food. But it is very, very cute, and it has a happy ending, so you don't need to worry. That's very, very cute. 2 more picture books and then I'm done of the picture books. I found in the library, which I was so excited for, because these are books that I've heard lots of people talk about. This is Julian is a Mermaid by Jessica Love, and also the follow-up book, which is Julian at the Wedding. These are sort of like beautiful stories, and this has won awards, I think, and it has been quite like widely talked about. And it's about a little boy called Julian who basically wants to be a mermaid, wants to dress up, and it's so cute because the relationship he has with his grandma is just gorgeous, and the illustrations are wonderful. It's just a very happy story. The next one that is Julian at the wedding, and this is equally just as gorgeous. He goes to the wedding with his little pal, and it's about that. And this is got queer representation. I think the actual wedding is between two women, which is just lovely, and it's really well illustrated, loads of fun, and it's just really positive, wonderful book. So yeah, I loved it, obviously, and I think that's me done with my picture books. I'm not saying I'm going to stop reading picture books, but that is me done for all the readathon books. I think I've completed everything that I want to complete. The next book that I'm reading is An Heir to Murder by my lovely friend Charlie, and this is one I'm buddy read. So this is a murder mystery, obviously, and in this book we follow Alice Valentine, and it's just like her going around with Marmaduke Featherstone solving crimes, and it's just really, really loads of fun, and it's very, very cozy, and I'm just like continuing the reading experience of just reading a few chapters a day, and I'm buddy reading this with the lovely Kelly, and so thank you so much, Kelly. I'm really enjoying reading with you. And yeah, we're just like hunting for Easter eggs and trying to find like references to previous books, because Charlie has told us there are references to previous books. If you want to buy An Heir to Murder, you've still got time. We're not talking about the we're not doing the live show for this not until like the middle of the month. I'll link the date in the description, and also places where you can buy Charlie's book, as I do every time. So yeah. So that's that. Then I wanted to treat myself to sort of like a comfort read, and I thought I would head to Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. I have the audiobook for this, but I'm sort of again listening to it and then picking up the physical book and sort of reading it that way together, because this is like one of my favourite, but like I would say this is like, well, it's on my favourite shelf, so it's one of my favourites. I just love this book. This is a YA book, and it's not very hard to describe, but so the lead character, Yadriel, we're following Yadriel, who is a young trans boy, and his best friend, basically Maritza, and basically what it is that in his like community there's a coming of age ceremony, which I can never remember the name of the actual ceremony because I'm really rubbish, and he wants to prove himself to his family for who he truly is, and so he's like trying to like enact this ceremony, just him and Maritza, when they're doing this ceremony themselves, I think. So this basically leads them to summoning the ghost of Julian, but even though we haven't actually got to that bit yet, because I'm only very early doors starting it. But I just love this book. So one of the things I loved about this book is obviously we've got a trans main protagonist. We've got and it talks about his experiences with like having a binder at the beginning of the book. He has Yadriel is having a discussion with his mum about pronouns, which I remember the first time I read that it actually made me cry, because well, for reasons, and the pronoun conversation was just gorgeous. This is just like a wonderful little adventure story. It does read very YA, so if you don't like YA, it might not be for you, but I do think it's like a one that I feel like the discussions in this book are ones that sort of can open lots of people's eyes up, because obviously there's discussions here also about, apart from pronouns, we've got discussions about that. We've also got talk about like dead naming and things like that. So all of these are themes that if you're not familiar with, I feel like it would help like educate people. Not that this book is here for that reason. This is basically just a fun adventure story, but it does have the bonus elements of that, and it's just a really fun story. And I know I'm gonna love listening to it all over again and finding new things out, because when you reread books you sort of remember new things and find new elements. There's also content warnings for grief and death of the parent. Yadriel's mum at the beginning of the book you find out has died, so just be aware of that if that's something you're sensitive to, obviously. But yeah, this is like a beautiful book, and it's like I'm just loving the fact that I'm going to savour it and just listen to it and just devour this all over again. And side note, for the fact that I'd forgotten that Yadriel's cat is named Picasso. Like, isn't that the most gorgeous name? Like, Picasso. I love it. is that. So the next book that I picked up, I found in the library at the beginning of the week. I actually saw it last week. This is The Definitive Guide to the Perimenopause and the Menopause by Dr. Louise Newson. I have read a few books like the last year or so about this topic. There was a whole selection at the library recently. I think they were doing like a seminar or something about it, but I was busy in there working, obviously helping out, so I didn't go to it. But yeah, this is like an important thing to like for lots of us to educate ourselves on, because it happens to lots of us, and it can happen earlier than you think. And I'm excited to see what it says. The one I read recently, I recommend to people that I read, I just loved, was Cracking the Menopause by Mariella Frostrup. That was amazing. I really recommend that. So I'm hoping that this is kind of like, I don't know whether it will necessarily tell me anything new or anything different, but I want to read it. I want to dip into it. It might be something like I read a few chapters here and there. I don't know. We'll see how I get to it, and hopefully it doesn't look super text heavy. It looks like it's broken down really nicely. So, and it's really brand new out. So, and I haven't heard anyone talking about this particular book. So if you've read it, let me know. Yeah, that's that. Now I'm gonna say about the other stuff. So, right, obviously, like I said, the Women's Prize got announced yesterday, and the funniest thing, I had the funniest like morning, like watching people's like videos and seeing everyone's reactions to it. I think that was like probably the most fun thing. Kit the reader, I love Kit so much. They did a reaction video. Loads of people have done reactions videos, but I'll just mention a couple. Their video was so hilarious just because it just made me laugh so much. Also, then on the polar opposite kind of side, you had Kieran from KD Books, who I'll mention again in a minute. He did a reaction with his daughter, which was so cute, about Pod. So, you know, I'm sure lots of you will know Kieran's feelings about Pod. So yeah, and that was just so funny. So yeah, I'm going to link a couple of the videos, some reaction videos. Maybe I'll do like find a playlist or something of people's reaction videos in the description. I'll link all that in the description. Well worth a watch. And seeing so many different people's thoughts is just really, really good. We also then last night had a live show about it, which thank you guys, so many of you guys, for coming along and joining us and chatting with us, because it was just the best. We always have the best time on our Plodalongs. And this live show obviously was to discuss the shortlist. We did go through each book and discuss each book, but there was a lot of chat about Pod. So, and then other discussions it sort of led to. If you know, you know. I will link that video in description. But I apologise for the last half an hour, because we were just having the best time ever. So this is what happens. If you join one of our live shows, you know. And if you don't join our live shows, you should, because you're not missing out, because we have the best times. Not just talking about books, often. Right, so yeah, am I upset that Pod's on there? I'm shocked that I'm not. In some ways I am shocked, in some ways I'm not shocked, but I do not understand why it's on there. Obviously I just like the book, but every book that is longlisted can in theory be shortlisted, as we know from William being shortlisted for the book. Lots of people were shocked and confused by that. So yeah, we all know that prizes can like try and mix things up and kind of shock us, and this is what we love. And the fact that it led to then much funny discussion was brilliant. And the rest of 4 out of my 6 wish list actually made it. My predictions were rubbish, but my wish list, 4 of my 6 wish list made it. I'm gutted that Wandering Souls didn't make it. Obviously, I'm truly upset that. Not say truly upset. It's a book. It's gonna be okay. But I am disappointed that Wandering Souls didn't make it. I'm not like hugely shocked, but I am disappointed. But then Trespasses made it, and that's like, I would say, probably my favourite then from the shortlist so far. Obviously, with Demon Cophead in second place, because I loved this book as well. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I said it all last night really, I think, and if you want to know any more than that, you can hear my thoughts. Go watch the live show and see all the craziness. Speaking of the Plodalong, seeing as though we're talking about all of that stuff, this Sunday, as you're watching it in the afternoon, no, not the afternoon, it's in the evening, so at 5:30 p.m. BST, we've got the wonderful Kia the Scrivener. She's going to be on our channel, my channel, so it's going to be on my channel, and obviously with Jem and Alice, and yeah, we'll be discussing things with her. I don't know if she's ready for it. Are you ready, Kia? Yeah, it's going to be fun. And we'll do some reading plods, the Plodalongs, plods. So yeah, that's that. And then on the following Tuesday, we've got the lovely, again, Kieran from KD Books. He is coming along at 8 p.m. BST on the Tuesday. So Tuesday the 2nd. I'll put all the dates on the screen. You'll see all that. And he's going to be coming on. I think he's actually going to say, is he going to tell us whether he's read pod really? I mean, have you, Kieran? I don't know. So yeah. That's going to be fun. It's never going to be quiet with Kieran on either. I don't suppose it will with Kia. But yeah. So yeah, that's that. In terms of the weeks ahead, we've got Misery May is going to be soon to be upon us, which is a readathon being hosted by the lovely Jem from Gemma Books and Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. So these are two people that obviously I think are wonderful, two of my favourite bookish people, and so yeah, I will put links to their announcement videos in the description, and also my wonderful sister Emily from Nova Novels is hosting a Spoonies readathon, which I will also put a link to her announcement video in the description. I'm not sure whether I'm going to be doing a TBR for it. I know I could do a TBR for it, but I feel like this month I don't want to do a TBR. So I will still be taking part in the readathons. My shelves are crammed, filled with miserable books and books that will count for the Spoonies readathon as well. So I will be reading each week, and I will be telling you what I'm reading and if it fits in to support certain prompts. But I'm not going to be trying actively too much to think about all those things. I just want to be reading my shelves and just making things a little bit easier for myself, because I feel like I need some self-care. This is what, like I said, it's okay to prioritise ourselves. Let me know how your week's been. Let me know your thoughts on the shortlist if you want to share them with me. Let me know what you're up to. Just have a good old natter with me. Take care, and sending you guys lots of love.